So I did my project on Chinese porcelain. A little bit of history about Chinese porcelain. Jingdezhong, China supplied porcelain to China to the emperors for over 500 years. Starting around 1402, Chinese emperors would order porcelain to be used at the court, state rituals. It was given as gifts, and it was used as decoration in the palaces. During the prime of porcelain production in Jingdezhong, over 10,000 specialists or artists were at work to produce these pieces of art. Local rock and clay provided the majority of the makeup of the clear, glossy porcelain. Jewel-like colors were added to the outer layer of the porcelain to give the pieces vibrancy and color. As you can see on the plates, they have a lot of vibrancy throughout them with the roses and the bird. Porcelain is made from China stone or white bricks and kaolin, which are both extracted by explosives or hand power. In today's modern world, they are extracted by explosives, but in the past, they have been extracted by hand power. After they're extracted, they are crushed by pistols into a fine powder. The powder is mixed with water to form clay. The clay dries until it is the correct consistency, and then it is used by potters to create vessels of differing art pieces. The pieces are hand-thrown on a wheel individually. For a vessel to be thrown, the clay is centered on a wheel. The walls are then thrown to the desired size, and the piece is cut off the wheel. If the piece is very large, it can be made by multiple people on a much larger wheel. This technique is much larger as the clay is much harder to center. Here is a visual of the steps that are taken when creating a porcelain piece. From throwing it on the wheel to the top left, to trimming a foot off of the piece, to drawing a design on the side, to letting the finished products dry out. After the finished products dry out, they are then sold and used for utility or decorational pieces. In China, most pieces are decorated with designs painted on the clay, which represent Hindu or Chinese ideas during this time period. Emperors would request pieces with 5-clawed dragons, images of cranes, which represented immortality, certain fruits, certain animals, or religious symbols on the sides of their pieces. As you can see in these pictures, on the upper picture there's a crane, and on the bottom picture that's a 5-clawed dragon. The pieces were glazed in many different ways. Some of these ways included painting or drawing, dipping into the glaze, or blow glaze, which was used on much larger pieces. Here are some images of those different glazing methods. So in the upper left is the painting or drawing method. This method is used when you want to do a lot more detail on a piece. The bottom left corner is the dipping method. This method is used on a lot of more utility pieces because it doesn't take as much time and just adds the glaze or color to the piece. And on the right is a blow glaze technique. This is used on much larger pieces, and the glaze is blown on the piece through a mouthpiece. So for kiln firing, after being glazed, artwork has to be fired in a kiln. A kiln is a thick container made of coarse clay bricks called sagres that can go up to extremely high temperatures, around 1250 degrees. The bricks go without cracking or changing shapes, which makes them very unique. The kiln is kept hot by burning wood or modern oil burning methods. In the modern day, mostly using oil methods, but in the past, more of the wood burning methods were used. After being fired and cooled, the porcelain pieces are ready to be used or displayed as art pieces in the world. As you can see in the picture, that's a much larger kiln, and they would stack up bricks in front of the door when the firing was ready to happen. Symbolism. So porcelain pieces during this time period contained a lot of symbolism throughout their artwork. The floral design on many pieces was a representation of beauty, and specifically the peaches on the pieces represented fertility. The lotus flower is associated with Buddhism and is a symbol of feminine beauty. The chrysanthemum was associated with longevity and wealth because the name sounds similar to the word Jiu, which means long enduring. It's a Chinese word. The hibiscus flower represents wealth and glory. The hibiscus flower is a very common symbol on pieces in China. So as you can see on the three pictures, they're very floral, they're very vibrant in color. These pieces have a lot of detail in them, and they're very symbolic with their meanings with the flowers that are drawn. So, in my opinion, the pieces of artwork have many different purposes, from everyday utility pieces to being displayed in high social standings. The everyday utility pieces consist of plates, bowls, cups, or serving dishes. These pieces generally do not have a high degree or intricate color on them because they are not being displayed or viewed by many, and are not as high of a risk of being broken. Unlike utility pieces, some porcelain pieces are kept on display in high social settings, like a palace or in the kingdom display. These pieces are much more detailed in design and brightly colored. Porcelain pieces in this setting are kept in museums of today's society. In my opinion, the degree of skill for these pieces varies from piece to piece depending on the amount of design or color used. A single colored vessel, such as a cup, does not take as much technical skill as an intricately designed floral vase or plate. In porcelain artwork, there is not one single artist, but hundreds of artists creating hundreds of different pieces. Each piece is created with the same technique. Their uniqueness comes with their design and color. Chinese porcelain has evolved over the years. Different Chinese dynasties added their own designs and styles to the art pieces to evolve the pieces. One development that stood out to me took place during the Ming Dynasty, and it is a human-like porcelain figure. This figure is called the Statue of Guyan. The statue is a large woman-like figure that is the color of stone. It's interesting to me to see the evolution from when the porcelain production started to where it's at now. Another interesting evolution is the design and how much more intricate it has become over the years. These are my resources, and my name's Eliza.